all you friends, foes, and fuckers out there. I'm Derrick Day, and my partner in crime here is,
I'm Aaron Tomlinson.
and we have a special guest tonight.
Yeah.
We have the oracle, the prophetess, the master metaphysician, sister, Mrs. Dr. Future, Vanessa R. Brooks. So y'all give it up for her.
Yay.
Yay.
All right.
How you doing, Vanessa?
I am really good. I'm good, Aaron. Cool guy.
So
What you
before we
drinking
get started, one of the quick housekeeping things that we do is what's in the glass? That's the first question of the night. What's in the glass? So Vanessa, since you're the guest, you're going to tell us what's in the glass.
I have my famous Friday night Patron margarita made myself.
Ooh.
A double shot for this special occasion.
All right. Yeah, because I'll tell you what, it helps to have your head screwed on right when you're in this crew.
I might need to have it not screwed on right for this occasion.
Unscrewed, yeah, you know. So yeah, so basically, Aaron, what's in your glass?
Well, I'm the lightweight tonight. I think I'm just drinking a red blend. So,
Well, I'm drinking a combination of sort of a mashup of a whiskey sour and an old fashioned, featuring Uncle Nearest small batch whiskey. And for those of you who don't know, Uncle Nearest is the guy that taught Jack Daniels how to distill whiskey. And so as a part of the reconciliation between the Jack Daniels family and Uncle Nearest's people, the Jack Daniels distillery pours a bunch of, pun intended, a lot of money into this distillery to help it grow. So this is a black owned whiskey.
nice.
So
Nice.
I've already taken care of Aaron on this, but Vanessa, I'm going to need your mailing address. I'll make sure that you get some of this too.
Absolutely.
That'll be your gift for gracing us with your presence tonight. So, with that being said, I'm going to start off with just one simple question. Right? Tell us very briefly, or as briefly as you can, about the thumbnail sketch of your journey, because I'm going to tell you something. I got acquainted with you almost 3 years ago, and I forget whose live stream it was on. I think it was on Lynn Bennett's live stream, and at that time you were Apostle Vanessa R. Brooks. Right? But don't feel bad, because see, I've been a bishop, I've been an apostle too. So don't feel bad. No shame in the game. Right?
I'm the low man on the totem pole.
Yeah, but you know something, man. You had a bigger following than probably either one of us, so it's all good. but here's the thing. When Lynn had you on, and he had introduced you as apostle, the first thing I said, oh, here we go, another one of these, title happy, Christians and all of it. But then I listened to you, and I was like, oh shit. This is not your standard stuff. So I was like, I've been a friend and a follower since then. We've done a couple of live streams together in groups and all of that. So we're pretty familiar with each other. But what I want you to do is share with our audience, your journey, how you got from there to here.
You know what? I tell people from the first day I got saved 35 years ago, I've walked myself out of Christianity because it's never made sense to me completely, not fully. And I was born curious, and so curiosity killed the cat, and it killed Christianity too for me. So I've always questioned the theology. I've always questioned the doctrine. Cognitive dissonance was just kicking my ass for a very long time, though, because things didn't make sense, but I made a way to make it make sense until I finally just could not anymore. When I became a pastor in 2007, the game changed drastically for me. The intensity of the questions I had increased. The exhaustion from pastoring, the exhaustion from trying to set up churches, the exhaustion from trying to help pastors not commit suicide at least once a day. the exhaustion from trying to keep parishioners from taking overdoses. I finally just one day in my house cried to God, and I said, "What the hell is going on here?" And this is what I said, and it's going to sound really sacrilegious. It's going to sound like, I mean, I'm already a heretic, so we already got here. I said to Jesus, I said, you know, you got the easy job here because you've gone back to heaven and you've left my ass here and I can't find you. So it was just a lot of, you know, it came down to I had to choose, is it going to be my mental health or am I going to continue pretending like pastoring and being a Christian is not problematic for me? Obviously I chose the former. So I phased out of Christianity, and we'll get to it later on. And I've kind of had to go through a journey. And I think Aaron remembers that there was first few months, because when I met Aaron, I was really at the cusp of it all, didn't know what the hell I was doing. And then so it's been a lot of questionings and just trying to figure out, okay, if not the Christian God, then what? Am I atheist? Am I just a heathen? I didn't know what the hell I was. And so it's taken me 4 years to just try to figure out what the hell am I and what do I do now? So I did deconstruct from Christianity. It's been painful as hell, but I finally found something that makes sense to me spiritually. I tried atheism, believe it or not, Derrick, I did. You may not know this, but Aaron knows this. Because Aaron was kicking my ass, like, wait a minute, let's talk about this. I tried atheism for probably about 4 months. I was like, fuck it all. It just doesn't but that did not feel good to my inward self. So, but at the same time, Christianity didn't feel good to me either. So I completely deconstructed from Christianity, and I think it is the most outrageous, problematic, traumatic, psychotic belief system ever known to man. I don't know how it survived all these years. But I digress. I'll stop right there. So
I can tell you why it lasted as long as it did.
I think I do know why, but there is a part of me that just, I look at it, I'm like, really? I know why. I understand what it's rooted in, but there's another part of me, the humanitarian part of me goes, really? Y'all don't see how crazy this belief system is. You mean to tell me you all really can't see how crazy this is? But I get it. I do get it.
Listen, I grew up around hustlers and ballers. You know, we grew up around pimps, right? So I know what the game looks like. And see, this is, you know, it's like, if you think about it, if you watch a pimp, right, you can see where the pimp picked up his game from, right? The fancy threads, you know, the spiritual sounding talk, the manipulation, the control, you know, the sense of safety and security. It's like Christianity is the source. It's the fountain of the pimp game.
It is a very destructive force of evil, as far as I'm concerned. And so I told you when you were talking to me about what we wanted to talk about, and for me, I'm on this journey of just really like the psychological damage that is done to us is just, for me, it's just, so for me, my quest is, okay, how do I help people literally restore psychologically? I mean, we can talk about how fucked up the doctrine is all night. The doctrine is just ridiculously just crazy. But what it's done to us at a psychological level, and for me, being a Black woman, of course, I have a passion for what it's done to Black people collectively. Specifically, I want to say Black women, but it's equally troubling to Black men too. And trying to educate. This is where the colonization of Christianity comes into play. This is the part that I get on my soapbox about, because trying to now educate Black people about the harmful theology of Christianity makes me the enemy to my own people. Meanwhile, my people are allies with the very people who have oppressed them, and I've become the enemy to my own people. Do y'all see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
absolutely insane. So we're talking about one of the books that I've fallen in love with is a book by Dr. Joy DeGruy, and she talks about post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Mm.
And one of the reasons why it's so hard, I'm a miracle. This is why I believe in miracles, right? Because I shouldn't have made it out of Christianity. I shouldn't have made it out. There, statistically, I should be a has-been, right? Black people suffer from post-traumatic slave syndrome. And so this shit is in our DNA. Like it has been transmitted into our DNA at a generational level. And so trying to convince people of color to at least examine their faith, even if you don't completely leave it, but are you willing to at least examine it and look at it and think critically about it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, trying to get them to do that because of the deeply embedded trauma makes my job so difficult. And I've in many circles, I've become the enemy, and that's tragic to me.
I completely understand that because I'm a pariah to a lot of, especially like the black male preaching circuit, because here's the thing. Once you know what the game is, right? If you share what the game is, it's almost like violating a fraternity code.
Yes.
You're giving up the secret. And that's why why I get it. And but the thing is that when you talk about decolonization, right, and the impact on black folks, right, we need to turn this around. And this is where I want to hear from Aaron, because here's the thing. White people need to hear about the decolonization too, because listen, until there's a universal healing, a reckoning of what Christianity and capitalism and all these things have done, until there's a reckoning for that on both sides, that we acknowledge, okay, that this was your part, this is my part, and until we recognize that, there's not going to be any healing. It's impossible.
Right. That's exactly right.
It's true.
And they want us to forgive. I can't forgive until you acknowledge. But go ahead, Aaron.
No, I was going to say, I think, I grew up like in the whitest neighborhood ever. And I think we had one black student at my high school that was a couple of years older than me that I didn't know any black people. I didn't even have the opportunity there wasn't even a neighborhood where you could go and meet black people that I knew about in my community. And we had a lot of Hispanics, and we had, migrant workers. So I grew up around a lot of Hispanic culture, but didn't know anything about black culture till I got in the church. And I just knew that I loved, at that time, I loved the energy and the spirituality and the passion and the power that I felt when I was in black churches and around, and so that's how I got to know black people. and I fell in love. But, and so it was easy for me to say, well, racism isn't really an issue. I was able to fall into that vortex, or whatever you want to call it, that mindset, that groupthink, hive mind, whatever. And so in my younger years, when you would hear, if I would have heard, Vanessa saying the things that she was just saying, or some of the conversations that we've had here, Derrick, if I'd have heard that 10 years ago, I would have taken offense, because what are you talking about? That was 200 years ago. That was, there's just so many gaps in the knowledge. But at one point, I did want to understand better. I did want to really listen. I did want to inquire. I did want to get past those defenses. And once I did that, it was, easy for me to say, yeah, I see it. It wasn't hard to see. What shocked me was after George Floyd was killed. And I remember I put a post on Facebook. I put a post on here. BLM is not a political issue. It's a humanity issue or something. It was, I just put it on before I went to bed, and I woke up to a shitstorm in my comments. I could not believe the reaction from the white community. my white friends and family, and I couldn't believe it. And then here's the thing. I took my church through deconstruction, because I was deconstructing like you guys, while I was pastoring, and out of integrity, I was sharing, and just taking a whole group of people through this journey. And it dawned on me, I can mess with your Bible. I can mess with your rapture. I can even mess with Jesus, I can bring in Buddhists. I can talk about Reiki. We had a yoga teacher that came and taught some Kundalini yoga at our church, did a seminar on it.
Wow.
But don't go addressing, don't even slightly address
Race.
the race issue, or we're coming for you. And that caused me to realize something. And so, Vanessa, you talk about, post-traumatic slave syndrome. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And it being in your genetics, well, I got to say, racism is in our genetics.
It's in your genetics. Exactly. It's the same thing.
And it wakes up so much. So, I'll share this one thing. I don't even remember what the discussion was over, but I had challenged a white, grace preacher on this issue. And I don't even remember how I challenged him. I just know he got really pissed off. I don't even remember the content of the conversation. All I know, I didn't hear from this dude on Facebook. No more likes, no more loves, no more comments, no more inbox messages. And like 6 months later, it was February, and it was Black History Month. And some jackass white guy had gone on and was doing this thing about how, Black History Month is terrible because it diminishes Black people and whatever. And I don't even remember all the points that this guy was making. And this guy that I'd had this interaction with tagged me on that video like 6 months later. And so that really helped me see something. It's like, I don't even remember I remember we got into it. I remember it was about race, but that's it. I hadn't thought about this or even thought about this guy in 6 months. But here he is 6 months later, essentially still trying to win the argument. That thing bothered him so badly. Yeah. And so I guess on the one hand, it's like, as white people, we don't see it, but yet how can you explain the rabid response? You know what I mean? This aggressive, mean, angry, fuck you response when you just try to touch the surface,
right,
of the race issues in this country. And that's very disconcerting to me, very heartbreaking to me. It's been a real source of, it's been very troubling for me for, the last couple of years, really.
Yeah. I mean, white people can't see it because they don't really have to see it, because American civilization has been set up in a way that your life, and I love you, Aaron, but like your life is normal. We are the ones, people of color are the ones who've had to be forced into your normal.
Right.
So that's why white people can't see it, because it's always been normal for you all, and you all have been taught, and it is your
DNA. Let me say something here, Vanessa. I want to give a shout out to people like Aaron, to people like Carl and Laura Forehand, people that are, they try to, because honestly, unless you've lived it, to your point, Vanessa, you can't see it. You can't. But there are people out here, and I remember there was this one instance where I was defending something that Laura Forehand had said. And some Black person came to me and said, you're trying to take her side over me. I said, no. I said, that's not what this isn't a matter of taking sides. This is a matter of recognizing an ally. Because the thing is that if we fail to recognize our allies, we won't have any. Eventually, we'll push them all out. So I just wanted to throw that in there because, one of the things that, when the whole George Floyd thing happened, there were people like Aaron, people like Jeff Turner, with Carl and Laura, I mentioned them. Katie Valentine, people who are Seth Showalter, that they reached out to me and they're like, dude, I don't see it. I can't see it, but I want you to say it so that others can hear it. Because the thing is that, and all of them said there was a common thread among all of them was that we can't see it, but we can try. We can make the effort. I just wanted to say that because I don't want to basically, my thing is I'm really big on keeping alliances, and I want to make sure that I extend that olive branch.
To me, part of the alliance though is that. So I hear you, but I don't necessarily agree with that completely, and let me tell you why. Because at some point, so when people say I don't see it, this is 2022. This is not 1852.
Yep.
So when white people, who I love them, but when white people continue to say I can't see it, you got Google on your phone, right?
Yeah.
Is it that you can't see it, or do you not want to see it?
So
because I wasn't. So when people say, "Well, I didn't have any slaves." Well, I wasn't a slave, but it's not hard for white people to look at historically what's been done in this country. And so you can see it if you're willing to take a look. Did you do it personally? No. But when white people keep telling me I can't see it, it is a little bit troubling to me, because at this point, like, it's not that hard to see anymore. It's not hard to look at our Constitution and see that the entire Constitution was created from.
They can see it, but the thing that what I'm saying is, like, you and I have a unique perspective on this, right? And in other words, we have to live this on a day-to-day basis, right? Our white brothers and sisters, they don't have to live it. They can see it, but they don't have to live it. That's the point that I was making. I'm not saying it to contradict you. I was just saying that that's.
Oh, but they could live. They could see it if they really wanted to. If you really my ally, and I'm not being difficult, but you told me I could say what I want to say. So
this is your show.
if you're really my ally and you really want to help me, so like, and when Aaron says I wasn't raised around black people, I get it. But at some point, for white people who want to be my ally, then move. Are you moving into black neighborhoods? Are you taking black people out to dinner and having conversation with them? Are you going to black church and experiencing black, are you experiencing our life? Are you going with me to the mall? Are you walking with me through the mall and seeing what life is like for me? So I get it that you can't see it, but you're not really my ally if you're just sitting over there saying, I got your back. No, I need you to come and experience this life with me. Show me that you're willing to see it. And don't just
what you're saying, you're looking for an active role and not a passive.
Absolutely, because if I have to share in your life as a white person, and I have no choice, because America was created by white people for white people, so I don't have any choice. I have to live your experience.
Yep.
So I'm asking white people, are you willing to live my experience with me, or are you just going to keep saying, I don't understand because I'm not living your life? Because we're not going to solve this problem if white people's only response is, I'm your ally, but I still don't really know what you're going through. That's not going to help us.
Right.
So you need to, if you really are the ally, then you need to be willing to share in the lived experience with black people. That's just my perspective. So that
I'm right there with you.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
I mean, because I want to nuance some of like what I was saying, because I don't in any way want to reflect that I think if someone says I can't see it, that's a pass. That's not the intention of what I'm saying at all. And I also don't want to generalize, and which I did earlier. I said, white people can't see it. That's not true. In this experience, especially when things kind of blew up and went so batshit crazy in 2020, I had friends that I had hung out with, and one of these people said to me on one particular night, they said, I don't like this liberal agenda because it doesn't let me be as racist and homophobic on the outside as I am on the inside.
Mm.
That's one example. And then the second example, I had someone, well, I don't want to give away too much information. I just don't, but I had someone that was in my life, we'll just put it that way, that was, always talking to me about what I thought were just kind of wild conspiracy theories. He was talking to me about I'm going to get this wrong, Derrick, so you help me. The protocols of the elders of Zion. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right.
He kept telling me to read that book, and I'm like, I'm not going to read that book, just because I would just, I just kind of listen to be polite. And then he was trying to tell me about the banking system and, all these different things about how, the banking system's running the governments and blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't until I picked up a book about white supremacy that I realized those were the foundations and the cornerstones of white supremacist thinking and doctrine.
Yep.
And so I'm reading this book and I'm going back to those conversations and I'm saying, holy shit, like, was this guy trying to recruit me into white supremacy? And so it was in my face, and I was just completely clueless. My point with racism being in our DNA is, or that we don't see it, is that, I don't know, it touches something so deeply unconscious in some people that even what I would have considered to be really decent people that I thought would, want to hear these stories and advocate and whatever, and they come out with so much venom. And so again, it could just be that I'm naive and that I don't see I don't even know how to say it, the depth of the racism that's there, that's been under the surface the whole time. And not just racism, because racism is systemic, but the bigotry and the prejudice and the hate that's there. And I think
let me throw something out here, because here's the thing. Not all white people are racist, at least in America, right? Speaking of America. But every white person in America benefits from the racist system.
For sure.
Every single one. Whether you subscribe to that way of thinking or not, you benefit from it. And that's the thing that I think that everybody needs to see, is that the structure, the apparatus, the modus operandi is built on racism. That's the foundation, right? That one race is superior to others. And that as long as that persists, it's hard for, how can I say it? Until that paradigm is broken, so people understand that, yes, people can say, I'm not a racist. I don't try to use my race to keep other people down, but you benefit from it and you don't do anything about the system. Then that's a problem. So anyway, I want to kick it back to Vanessa, because she's looking like, ooh, I got something to say here. I got something to say. So
well, no, it's just that, I think I just want to make sure you all, I'm not saying that every white person is racist.
No.
I'm saying that because the conversation we were talking about how I left Christianity, and part of that journey was just looking at how Christianity and colonization are so interconnected.
That's part of my journey.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about individual people here.
No.
I'm talking about years of just intrinsic racism permeating Christianity, and how Christianity and colonization as a package deal have affected my life and the life of Black people.
Yep. No, listen, I've been consuming your content for like 3 years, and I know that there's not a bigoted bone in your body.
Absolutely not. No. But I think that, so, and I guess when people say I don't see it, I'm trying to process that in my head, because I'm like, can you just go to Google and just look at how racism has affected every part of America? I just can't understand why that's so hard for people to see. I'm not talking about you as an individual person. Not you, Aaron. I'm just talking in general.
No,
individual people, no, maybe you're not, but we need you to see how racism, white supremacy is at the helm of every problem we have in this country, including Christianity. How Europeans went into indigenous territory and said, you're savages, you're inferior, your spirituality is inferior, your spirituality is lesser than, there's something wrong with you, and so we're gonna give you our culture because your culture is savagery. And so then Black people, my people, have had to be completely raped of our identity and our normalcy, our culture, and they've made us white. You know what I'm saying? So I'm talking about that. That's how big this is. So for me, if I were talking to white allies, I would say, I don't want you to keep thinking in terms of you as an individual person. This is bigger than individuals. This is an entire system that we're talking about, and how you and so with Christianity being Christianity is huge, because then everything else is woven into Christianity, even though this country tries to say that it's not. It is. I can't even go to the store with a paper dollar bill without being reminded that I have to trust in your God. Your God, your white God. Not the God of my ancestors, but you put your white God on the very piece of paper that I need to sustain my life in this country. So everywhere I turn, Christianity through colonization has reminded me, or tried to remind me psychologically, that I'm not worthy. So when we talk about this is deep, and so it's hard for me just to hear. I can't see it, and it's like, y'all, you could go get some books and you can read history and see what we're talking about, like how we dress. I mean, look at me. I'm still. Am I even comfortable enough to just show you my natural hair yet? No, because systemically, and I'm being really transparent, because systemically, white people has told us for ages, for years, this is what normal looks like. All right. And if you're not that, then something's wrong with you. So this is what my ancestors, we had to go get grease and a hot comb. Right? I remember sitting up on Saturday nights with my mom. Oh my God, I had thick, long hair.
Yep.
And she would have to, straighten it out, because we've never felt like who we are in the core of our being is good enough, including our spirituality. And so, and even today, the things that I want to do spiritually, there's always a cloud hanging over my head, because somebody's going to say that's your witch or that's witchcraft. And even my own people don't even know their own heritage, their own spiritual heritage, because of how they've been indoctrinated. So this is a problem. And so I'm just asking for the people, not you, but because you are descendants of your ancestors, they can't fix it because they're not here to fix it. So then the descendants of the ancestors are the only ones that can fix it on both sides. I have to do my part as a descendant of the enslaved people. But I'm asking for white Christians, not the nationalists, because they're not going to do it. They ain't going to do it. But I'm asking for white people who still subscribe to Christianity to see how harmful it is. And I don't know where the conversation gets started, but it has to be started, because it is impeding upon every area of our life as Black people. I can't even get people to go. Some people won't even apply for a job without praying to Jesus first.
Yeah.
All right. And so subconsciously, all of these entities, these deities, God, Jesus, they're all white. They're all white. So systemically, everywhere we turn, we're inferior. That's the way we've been programmed to see ourselves.
That gives me a good segue, because I want to talk about some of the things that you're teaching and some of the things that you're doing to elevate consciousness, and you bring to bear a lot of the spirituality of our ancestors, the Yoruba, the Ashanti, some of our native spirituality, and talking about how to step away from the colonized view of spirituality, and some of the things that you're doing to help people to grow beyond that, because you're doing a really fantastic job. You're doing some hell of a work in helping people to see beyond the Western paradigm of
Absolutely.
spirituality. So I
Yeah.
want you to talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, because I didn't know there was another option. And that's what me and Aaron used to talk about late at night. Like, I just, and again, this is how indoctrination is. And I know that it may, some people don't want to hear it, and I get it. But this is my lived experience. Like, I did not know there were any other options for me, because all I was given was the Western version of spirituality.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for people who may not want to take. I've talked to so many people, and I understand atheism is an issue, is an option, but it doesn't have to be an option for everybody. Now on TikTok, we have these conversations every single day on TikTok. I'm growing a really large following over there, and people are thanking me every day because people are actually doing what I did, and they're saying, okay, well, I don't have to be atheist, but we didn't know that.
Right.
For a lot of us, and so part of my conversation has been, can we redefine the word God? That the word God is a problem, okay?
Yeah.
Because what we did was we put this personified essence on this word God, and so we expect God to be this man in the clouds that we can't see. Sky Daddy. That's problematic, because now what happens is, if Sky Daddy doesn't come through for me, right, then we have millions of people who say, well, then there must not be a God. So what I've had to do with my students and my team and my mentees is, let's redefine what God, how we see God. So I don't see God as some man hiding mysteriously in the clouds somewhere. Mm-hmm. For me, I connect to, I don't even have a name for it. I just call it the all. I see everything around me as a manifestation of God. So rather than me trying to get to know some God, some entity, some energy, some man, then I worship I worship nature. And I know people are like, what? Worship just means to honor and respect. So having that conversation with a lot of people in my circle has meant the difference between them losing their spirituality altogether and finding a healthier way to approach it. Because again, we didn't know we had an option, because we thought that if it's not Christianity, everything else is wicked and evil. Mm-hmm. So part of my conversation has been just talking to people of color about, let's redefine what spirituality looks like for you. Let's redefine, and just talking about myself. What do I do? I wasn't willing, Aaron, to throw all of my spiritual gifts away. That's just not, that's not going to work for me. Christianity didn't give them to me. Christianity may have helped me to cultivate them, but I was born with this spiritual energy. And so realizing that I didn't have to throw my gifts away has been a game changer for me. Realizing that I don't pray to Jesus anymore, but that prayer can look different. Prayer can just be, speaking words of affirmation over myself or what I desire, or just understanding the laws of the universe, or just understanding energy and how energy helps us to create. So just redefining what spirituality looks like for a lot of people has meant the difference in them actually committing suicide in some cases. I'm working on my doctoral degree, and I'm looking at mental health and religion and what that correlation looks like. And there are a lot of people who, in the research, there are people who are experiencing severe depression and anxiety and suicide ideation as they're going through deconstruction, because their spirituality, it was that near and dear to them. And I don't like how Western religion makes people feel like it's either our way or no way. Hit the road, Jack. And I don't you come back no more. So it's not fair. And I'm not gonna sit down and just take that. So just trying to find a healthy way to replace some of the dogmatic beliefs that we had. That's what I'm trying to do. And yes, some of that means we have to take a look at the origin of Christianity. I have to get my people to see how you became a Christian in the first place, because most of us don't even know how we became a Christian. We just woke up one day. We were born into it. Mama was a Christian. Grandma was a Christian. We don't even know how the hell we became Christians. So part of the deconstruction for me and my circle is we have to look at the etymology of it. And that's where the whole colonization comes into play. Not because we're trying to, make people feel guilty about racism and slavery, but they have to understand that piece of it. I need them to know they had a spiritual identity before colonizers came to indigenous lands. You had a spirituality. You had a way to feel connected to, the universe. It's up to you.
Let me interject something here, because one of the things that in your teaching, you've been very big on embracing the divine feminine.
Absolutely. She's God.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because I really think that if there is a God, I mean, I'm an atheist.
I know.
I've embraced atheism. But if there's a God, it's got to be a woman. She's
a woman. She's a woman.
It has to be a she.
Listen, science has, I don't even know what science has unequivocally proven to us that the first human species on this planet was a woman. There was a scientist on TikTok the other day, and I loved his video. And he said there was a time when women could create life without a man. Hello, lights. So we look at Western religion, and Western religion has very blatantly removed the divine feminine from its theology. We don't, and don't tell me, people be like, well, the Holy Spirit, no, forget that. I don't want to hear that. What you removed the divine feminine completely from Christianity. Not only is the divine feminine not a part of the Godhead, we don't see feminine leadership in the Bible. And every time we saw feminine leadership, you struck it down. Eve is the first example in the Bible of divine feminine energy. They got shut down, all because she wanted knowledge.
Cancel culture.
Excuse me? Excuse me. You're going to cancel Eve because she wants knowledge?
Right.
You're going to cancel Eve because she listened to her higher self? So all throughout scripture, we see Jezebel. Western religion has completely demonized Jezebel. Jezebel is my girl, okay?
Yep.
I'm Jezebel. Jezebel was double royalty. Her father was a king. Her husband was a king, which means she was both a queen and a princess. Are you telling me that she did not have a divine right to make decisions, to even usurp control over her husband? You don't understand royalty then, because women, especially women who were a part of royalty, had every right to make decisions, to lead. There was a time in our history when women were the leaders, and especially in African history, the queen, the women, the black woman, the black queen, she's the one that bestowed kingship on the man.
Right.
Okay. So then you come into the Western religion, and all of this was taken away. And so I grew up as a young Christian woman with a submissive mindset.
And you know what? That's the funny thing, because when you talk about Christianity and you talk about women, they always talk about the woman must submit. And I'm going to tell you something. As a man, and I'm a strong man, right? Because I'm going to tell you something. I'll whoop your ass. I'll keep it real in 100. I'll whoop your fucking ass. So you talk about I'm a strong man, but I'm saying that this whole concept of women submitting to the authority of men is absolute and utter bullshit.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
So I'm loving this. I'm loving this conversation because we've gone after racism. we're talked about atheism, but I don't want to be an atheist. I want to keep my spirituality, and now we're going after
Sexism.
sexism.
I'm coming for all of it.
We're being equal opportunity offenders here.
Let's tear down all the structures. All the power structures.
I love it. I mean, I love where this conversation is.
I mean, that's how damaging Christianity is, though. You really can't skip over any of the systems and structures when you start talking about Christianity. I mean, you can't. So for me, these last 4 years has just been about, oh my God, I've got 50 plus years of rewiring I have to do, because I completely lost my entire identity to this belief system because I lived it with every fiber of my being. My mama went to her grave not being able to tap into her divine feminine power. She went to her grave just believing that, I love my mother so much. I got a picture of her over on my altar, and she did what the Bible said. She submitted to my dad, and I'll give her credit. After 30 plus years, my daddy finally decided to stop drinking and to become a Christian and all that stuff. But 30 plus years, my mama had to submit to this man who did not really honor who she was. I watched her fix his meals and iron his clothes, and I watched her have to find rides to work, all because these are the things Jesus wanted her to do. And so I wonder what my mother could have, because she was such a smart, brilliant woman. But I wonder what else could she have been if she had tapped into the knowledge that I tapped into. And that's why I'm doing this with so much fervor, because I feel like I need to do it for her, to vindicate the legacy of my mama and my grandmother, who were enslaved to the system of Christianity.
God damn.
So I have no choice but to pursue and to see, because I'm over here trying to heal generational trauma, y'all. I've got a daughter, you know what I'm saying? And I need her to know who she is. And trying to, having to grow up thinking that there is a God somewhere that I can't see, touch, taste, feel, or hear, who cannot love me for who I am without the death of his own son. I mean, imagine what that can do to you psychologically. Because the way we've been taught in America, in the Western world, like God is that's as big as it gets, right? Yeah. So if God doesn't love me like I am, how the fuck is a man gonna love me like I am? How am I gonna have healthy friendships? How am I gonna be a good wife? How am I gonna be a good husband? How am I gonna be, all I can be in the workplace if I can't even get God to love me without a sacrifice? Do you know what that does to a person psychologically? Now, are we aware that this is why our relationships and our lives are dysfunctional? Most people have not connected the dots. That's why I'm here on this thing, to try to connect the dots and show people there's a direct correlation between what your life looks like and your spiritual belief system. So if you believe you're unworthy, if you believe that God cannot even be in your presence without blood being shed, well, damn, that's going to affect how I feel about every other part of my life.
Yeah.
It's not healthy. It's not fair. White people shouldn't have to deal with that bullshit either. Nobody should. Nobody should have to live their life like this. And there are too many people who are being diagnosed every single day with religious trauma. Every single day. All right. This is going to end up in our DSM. It's gonna end up being a thing. All right. There are too many people who are dealing with depression and anxiety, hopelessness, fear, all because of these religious constructs that we refuse to examine. We refuse to, and I don't even know, because Christianity is so autonomous. I don't even know how you fix it.
So let me ask you a question, right? Because you did some readings using tarot cards online in a live stream in real time, right? And I remember how I mean, because you have a big following, and I remember watching. I sat up and listened. I sat up on one of these readings, and how people who have been connected to you for years suddenly saw you as something evil because of what you were doing. But what you were doing was actually liberating them from a thought paradigm.
Right.
And so I want to talk about that for a minute, because you've talked about tarot, you talked about Ouija, you've talked about a lot of different things that that Christians consider to be spiritual taboos. But you haven't talked about them. You've actually implemented them and actuated them in real time. And I really believe that more people were set free by what you were doing than the people who were offended by what you were doing. But I want to talk about that for a minute, because that was some real shit.
You know what the beautiful thing about tarot and oracle readings and sound bone therapy and Reiki, there's no devil involved. There's no deity involved.
Well, even Satanists don't believe in the literal devil. So
exactly. I got a really good friend that's a Satanist too. So, but the funny thing is that all the practices, this is why I laugh at Christianity, and I make them so mad. On TikTok, they just be coming for my ass on TikTok so bad. But I laugh because it's like everything that you demonize, you practice though.
Right.
Like tarot is no different than prophecy. But because the religion itself, because it's such a superior religion, it has convinced itself through the egregore of superiority that if we do it, it's okay. I mean, Christianity practices witchcraft. It practices sorcery.
Yeah.
It practices, what do you call it when you, I wish Ben's wife was on here. What do you call it, Aaron, when you, it's a form of divination, runes.
Runes, yeah.
I mean, all that stuff is in the Bible. It's all in the Bible. But when you have been made to feel like you've got the true God, then you think that your practices are acceptable. See, here's the thing, Derrick, and I tell my friend this all the time. I could go back to the church tonight, right now, as soon as this live stream ends. I could post on my Facebook pages across all social media outlets that I repent.
Mm-hmm.
I could say I repent, the devil was using me. I'm coming back to Christianity. And they would take me back. And then I could go in there and I could teach. And I think you already alluded to this. I could teach, I could do tarot. I could take these crystals and make all kind of necklaces. I could do anything, as long as I don't interrupt the pattern of fear that's woven in the brain of Christianity. As long as you don't take hell, Jesus, and heaven away from them, they don't care what else you talk about, because they practice it themselves. So tarot, for the reason I love tarot and oracle cards, and tarot in particular, is because it's really, if you research tarot, psychologists and psychiatrists used to use it back in the day, right, Aaron? I mean, it's really a form of psychology, because it's really getting into, like, the archetypes in our subconscious.
Right.
It's far less damaging than the scriptures, if you ask me.
Here's the thing. I just want to add, like, because I did this when I started going through this when I was still pastoring. And I said, I gave the definition for divination, and the definition for divination is to discover the mind of God. Now I'm going to trigger all my atheist friends out there. I'm just going to say right now, I'm going to trigger all my atheist friends, except Derrick. But but it's getting insight into the mind of God. So I when I redefined it, I said, okay, what are some appropriate or legal ways, or I can't remember how I framed it, but what are some legitimate ways back then to practice divination? And so I got prayer, I got prophecy because we were charismatic. I got worship, God will speak to me in worship, being led by the Spirit. I did get the Bible finally. Somebody said the Bible, which I was kind of glad, because I wasn't leading a church that was just Bible thumping and pounding. But then I said, what are some illegitimate ways? And I got tarot cards, Ouija boards. Nobody knew what runes were, but pendulums, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I said, I want you to notice something here. I said, every form that you guys said was illegitimate has some level of what I would call random objectivity. And this is where I'm going to trigger my atheist friends. And here's what I mean by that. Prayer, hearing a voice in my heart, that's 100% subjective. Prophecy, that's 100% subjective. Worship, 100% subjective. The only thing that they had to bring any objectivity was the Bible. And everything else that you are throwing out has some kind of an objectivity to it. So when you do a spread, you don't pick the cards pick themselves, and then you interpret the cards, correct, Vanessa? Correct. And so there's objectivity to it. Same thing with runes, same thing with, so it's like, we want to remove all objectivity from this and call it evil. And we want to say everything that's 100% subjective, where my desires, my will, my imagination, all that stuff can be involved. And we're going to say this is a better or superior form of divination than this over here. So I would say it's the other way around. I would say that the forms, Vanessa, that you're practicing, and that like Beth Urban practices, and Jeanette Peasley and other people that I know, it's superior. And believe me, I've had some readings, card readings, oracle card, tarot card, that blew my mind. And read my mail more than any prophet I was ever around. Absolutely. When I was doing other. And so that's my 2 cents on that.
Yes, Ben Urban is in the green room, so I'm gonna bring him in. Ben, my dude.
Hey Ben,
how are y'all doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Hey, there's Asa.
Hey, what's up, Asa?
Hey, Asa.
All right,
you guys
Ben,
are really on tonight once again.
Before you get started, Ben, where's Beth right now?
She has a friend over, so they're hanging out on the patio, front patio. So.
All right.
But this has been.
So I was like, if Beth is around, we need to have Beth in. I love you, but
divination with me.
All right, well, I guess I'll go then.
Hey, come here real quick. Ben, I got somebody wants to say hi. Come here. No, come here. Oh, okay. Come here. Don't be chicken. Come here.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay. You're embarrassing me. Like I'm lying here.
I'm on.
Say hi.
Hi. One sec.
He's just sat down.
Say hi, Asa.
Girlfriend here and took off.
I got to have all of you here just so that I can watch your kids go down the water slide. That's
man. We have to do it. We have to. Oh, he's telling me to be quiet.
I'm not trying to plug him, but this kid is really good at clay monsters.
Nice.
He wanted to show your son's his bearded dragon. He's been waiting 2 weeks to do that, man.
Really? Wow, that's awesome. Because Asa was so excited after he met your son.
Yeah, so was Josiah. He was like,
I have a new friend.
One more time. I had a gecko in my pool. Does that count?
What's that?
I said I had a gecko in my pool. Does that count?
That counts for Josiah.
Man, that is a big ass lizard, man.
It is.
Holy crap.
Yeah, being a caretaker of a lizard is quite an undertaking. I'll just say that. All right, thanks, buddy. Say goodbye.
Bye.
Oh, you're gonna come back. You're gonna come back to George. What's that?
Okay. He wants to see it. See, look.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
I want to see the kid.
Yo,
wants
he
to
wants
see
to see you. Come here. It's Josiah. Josiah,
His
come on.
name is Josiah.
He's being shy. He's being shy. There he is.
Hello.
You're in the hit thing. Get where my name. Whoa. There you go.
See, there you go.
All right.
All right, guys.
I have a new best friend.
There you go.
You know, one thing I got to say is a common thread between all of our kids is great hair.
They got better hair than me, man.
I agree.
For
But
sure.
this has been a really great conversation, guys. In ways, it's very humbling, but it's also very empowering. You know, as humans, you know, because there's a lot of evolution if people take it the right way, and they don't get butthurt by accepting the truth of their own failures. There's always room to grow. So I think that's really awesome. And you guys have really been nailing it tonight. So this is awesome.
We have to find a way to go forward, and we can't go forward till we address these issues.
It's true.
Well, here's the thing. I want to give a shout out to Vanessa because she does some things that make us reconsider our paradigms, that make us reconsider what we think. And I'm going to say, like, here's the thing. I can identify with a lot of what she said being Black. But as being a man and listening to the voice of a woman, there is something edifying and growing about that. And so it's actually, Aaron and I use this term, Vanessa. We talk about growing in real time.
Yep.
That's the term that we use. And so listening to you, I'm actually growing in real time. And I'm so grateful for everything that you do. I'm so grateful for the person that you are. I'm so grateful for your boldness. And right now, in this show, I'm growing in real time thanks to you.
Oh, wow. That's a major compliment coming from somebody as brilliant as you are. Thank you.
Well,
if you notice, we're finishing that bottle of whiskey there, Vanessa. So
no, is it the whiskey? Is that what's doing it?
No, I'm teasing you. No, Vanessa, I just have to echo, like, it's been a long time since we've been able to connect, and it's so great to have this time. I'm so thankful that you decided to join us tonight. So
I appreciate y'all having me.
Well, I'll tell you what the real shame is. The real shame is that we have not hung out yet in person, living in the same state. We got to work something out. I know Beth wants to too. So
I still want to advocate that we should have some kind of conference or retreat or something.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I agree.
Colorado's a great place, man. We can do something up in the mountains and just hang out.
Or hold on, let me
throw
Tulsa is a great place because it's very central to everybody.
Are you in Tulsa now?
What's that? Yeah.
You're
almost a year.
Carlton Pearson's in Tulsa.
Yes, he is. And it's funny because I talked to my brother Steve White, who's one of Carlton's spiritual sons. And it's funny, Steve calls me yesterday and he says, "Hey, I'm just calling to tell you that I was in Tulsa and I'm sorry that I didn't look you up." He said, because I talked to Tony Calloway and he told me, "Hey, did you talk to Derrick?" And he's like, "No." He said, because he's so fixated on me being in Phoenix, right? So he didn't even think about it. But trust me, Aaron and I are working on a whole roster of future guests, and Dr. Pearson is on that list.
Honey, send me
That'd be awesome.
send me an invite. I had an opportunity to talk to him Tuesday night. So I was on his live stream Tuesday night, and they, we were commenting or whatever, and his show manager put my comment up in the thingy so he could
I saw
read it. And we ended up FaceTiming after his show was over. I just was so blessed and honored to be able to talk to him. I think he definitely is somebody that I've looked up to on this journey, as a trailblazer. He's blazing trails. And so, if you have him on, let me know so I can make sure I got my popcorn ready. I love culture.
Listen, here's the thing. He's here in Tulsa. I would love nothing more than to have him as a guest, to have Aaron here, to have you here, to have Ben here. And we all eat barbecue, drink booze, and talk about all this stuff.
I was gonna say, we need to do that one in person. I need to come to Tulsa for that one.
I want to throw something in there. Because I'd love to ask him what his thoughts were on the movie Come Sunday, which they did on Netflix. It was a Netflix movie about him and his deconstruction.
My understanding is that he was very favorable about the Come Sunday, and I'm going to say this: that the biggest video that I did on YouTube was about the Come Sunday movie.
Yeah, because I remember watching it and really enjoying it. I was still early on in my deconstruction, so maybe going back and watching it now, I don't know how I'd feel about it one way or the other, but like, I thought it was pretty well done. I was pretty happy with it. So
I like.
I think he was a part of the production of it, if I'm not mistaken, right, Derrick?
I think that's correct.
He had some input into it. Yes,
he was actually a part of. Yeah, I think he was a part of it on some level. So, but yeah.
The one thing I have people that in my circle that know him well, and the one thing that I was told was that the movie did not get correct by people that know him and were close to him, is that he was much more scholarly in his research and approach. The movie made it seem like, he just kind of had this subjective feeling or whatever. And so, but that he actually,
you can see that in the movie too, because when you listen to him talk, he's very scholarly, articulate, but in the movie, it was just kind of like, the Lord spoke to me kind of thing. And so, you can
so that's the one part I heard that they, those people didn't appreciate about the movie because they didn't bring out his scholarship in it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I want to speak to that for a second, because I knew Bishop Ellis personally, who was the chief of the College of Bishops in the United States, and Bishop Ellis challenged Bishop Pearson from a I'm not going to say it, from a scholarly perspective. And Bishop Pearson's response was not emotional at all. That his response was totally rooted and grounded in the historicity and the empirical aspects of Scripture. Yeah. So it wasn't like, he was trying to contradict something rational with something emotional.
Right.
It was a very measured, rational, logical response to the scholarship that Bishop Ellis presented. And that's the one thing that I wish that the movie had captured in a better respect.
Something similar happened with Larry Reed a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with his platform or not. Larry Reed is a Christian blogger. He's a I don't know what he is. He used to be a pastor in Raleigh, and then he moved to another city, and he's kind of a progressive online pastor, but he's a blogger too. And he picked up my teaching on hell from TikTok, and he put it on all of his social media platforms, and it just went viral. And the clip is me talking kind of similar to what Carlton Pearson was saying about hell. And it was so amazing. I looked at all these comments. These people were just so emotionally charged. They didn't hear anything I said about hell. They didn't hear anything from a scholarly or historical perspective. They were just angry and emotionally charged, banished me to hell, called me all kind of names, called me everything except what Sarah may name me. And I just thought, wow, the fact that the church can't even speak to research information is really sad to me. That your response to research is an emotional one. That's the state of the church. That's the state of the church, and that's problematic because it really shows where. And I'm not trying to generalize Christianity because I know people get triggered when I say
feel free because I generalize Christianity all the time.
I know,
Well,
and it's like Christians cannot. It's such an emotional religion that critical thinking and intellect and skills is not encouraged and promoted.
No.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off of that because, I mean, it's definitely a case where, and this is going to be probably the most heretical thing I say tonight, maybe, I don't know. But I feel like for spiritual ascent to happen, you have to be able to put the religious God on trial. You have to scrutinize the God that everybody thinks like, oh, we can't question, we can't hold to a standard, we can't do this or that. It's all cop-out business. I mean, it's all bullshit.
Yeah,
we have to be able to talk. We have to be able to discuss these things. And if the God that Christianity worships is the big boss of everything, then he or she or it is not concerned with what we think.
Yeah.
Is not going to get insecure and butthurt about the things we say.
Well, that's what I told all those people last week. I said, because celebrities had jumped on these comments, right? I had celebrities banishing me to hell, and I said to people, I said, "You mean to tell me a 3-minute clip where I'm just talking about the 3 words that we take hell from, right? Or we try to translate to be hell. You mean to tell me that God, the big kahuna, that God is going to banish me to hell forever, not because I murdered anybody, not because I stole from anybody, but God's going to send me to hell. My charge is going to be when I get to the pearly gates and he says, depart from me, I never knew you because you studied." I just want y'all to think about what you're saying.
That's the funny thing, that God is somehow going to charge it against you because you use the brain he gave you.
That you gave me. You designed me with a brain that has trillions of neural pathways and neurons, but you only want me to use one of the neurons.
Right.
And if I use
I'm sorry that I wasn't happy enough or satisfied enough with your book of errors.
Right. Forgive me for wanting to understand the language that you supposedly actually spoke in, as opposed to the language that it was translated in. Excuse me for wanting to know.
Here's my thing, right?
Doesn't make any sense.
Ostensibly, you created all of this universe, this vast billions, trillions of stars. That you've created the processes that create life, that you create the processes that create energy, that you create the processes that undergird chemistry and biology and physics. And you mean to tell me that you cannot write an unambiguous book that explains to us at a kindergartner's level what it is your will is? Listen, let me say this. I had an issue today where my youngest son, it is his responsibility to take the trash out. That's his job, right? Now, when I talked to him this morning, I said, before you go to school this morning, make sure you give yourself enough runway to put all of the trash out because the trash is overflowing. Now, guess what? He didn't do it. His older brother took care of all the trash. He put all the trash out. Now, is the problem me? No, because I made my will known to my youngest son, and I made it consistent and unambiguous, right? So it was clear enough that his older brother can say, okay, I know what dad wants. Let me put the trash out. If God is God, and this is my whole thing, if there is a God, if there is a higher consciousness, if there is a source, this source, this God, this higher power has a moral obligation to make its will known to all humanity in a plain and unambiguous way. If that doesn't happen, then that feeds my atheism.
Let me piggyback on that with the creation part as well, because this was where I came to question the idea of hell, because the universe is so vast and it is so diverse. So if this creator created, he likes diversity. In every kingdom you see it, in the mineral kingdom, in the insect kingdom, in the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, and that's just on this planet, and that's not even talking about everything that's in the ocean. And I think this whole idea of the will of God is this idea that God or source or whatever, the creator, presupposing that there is one, that he wants uniformity and conformity. I've got a will and I want everybody to unite under this and conform to this. And I thought, how in the world, like, what was God doing? Because I could never buy the young earth stuff. I could never buy that. So I thought, if God's big plan was to sum everything up in humanity in Christ, what was he doing for 1 billion years or 7 billion years or whatever? Like, why didn't he get the show on the road? Like, why did we have to wait 4,000 years for
masturbating?
So I think the idea of the will of God then presupposes that God is not for freedom and diversity, and that he demands, or she, as the case may be, demands obedience and uniformity. And I think creation completely contradicts that. And so I thought, how could it possibly be then that only people who believe one way, act one way, do one way, sing all the same praise songs can be the one people that are preserved for all eternity, and everybody else that's outside of that little tiny box then is burning in hell? That's really how I came to think this doesn't make any sense at all. So I don't even know,
And I don't even, I don't think there is a God's will. I think these are concepts that we need to let go of, because I often wonder what would have happened to all of us had we never been connected to these Christian doctrines. Because again, Christianity is what, a couple thousand years old. So see, for me, what I did was, for me, this is just my journey. In order for me to avoid atheism, I just let all of it go. I let all of Christian doctrine fall to the ground, and I said, F it. Because I feel like...
You mean fuck it?
Fuck it, yeah. What were people thinking about the nature of reality before Christianity? So either we're going to let Christianity control how we think, or we're going to allow ourselves to have some new thought processes. What if there is not a God who's trying to control or wants all this worship? Right. What if these are just constructs that we can't let go of because of what we learned through religion? What if we were just created by whatever created us, whatever the hell it is? What if we've been endowed with that divine nature on our own to just fucking live? So for me, that's how so for me, if I see the trees or the ocean or the birds or the butterflies, And then in each of us have our own consciousness where we're experiencing these things individually through our own lens. Why can't that just be God?
Yeah.
Why does God have to just be a being? Because again, that's what I was saying initially. If you try to make God be a being somehow, it's going to become very problematic.
Mm.
I don't
Yeah,
think
true.
I don't think of God as something that's intervening in my life or not intervening in my life, or helping Aaron out but not helping me out, or helping being out but ignoring Derrick. I don't see God like that anymore. And I think that's a flawed way to try to understand the nature of reality. I think it's almost primitive to try to reduce the nature of reality down to some being that,
Yeah.
because we're on the planet for a limited time. So there's going to be sickness, there's going to be death, there's going to be, sometimes things are going to work out, sometimes things are not going to work out. What if we just not blame that on any deity or any devil and just say, this is just the nature of what it is to be a human on this planet?
Mm-hmm.
Josiah just said something. Just a second, Ben. I know you're trying to get in there, and then I'll kick it to you. But I got to tell you what Josiah
right.
just said. My wife's going to kill me. He just said, he heard me talking. He said, Dad, you're a pastor. You're supposed to be spitting bullshit.
He's ahead of the game, Aaron. He's ahead of the game.
Josiah is officially my hero tonight.
That is awesome. That's great. But to bounce off of all of you, because you all three of you have made really great points here. And where I was going to go with this was to think logically. We're dealing with an omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, all benevolent being who seems to rule the world, rule the universe, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You would think if he or she or it has a will that's for everyone, and it's contingent upon our eternal survival, all that shit, then wouldn't he or she or it have a press conference that everybody cannot miss?
Yeah.
There'd be something where there'd be no question. There'd be
Right. Exactly.
absolutely like incontrovertible proof, incontestable clarity that this is what God wants, not, just some idea that man made up.
Right.
So what we got, so who else is atheist? Aaron, are you atheist now?
No.
No? Agnostic? No.
And then on a journey, let's just put it that way. But I'm
like me. You like
I'm
me.
like you. No,
I'm a curious agnostic.
I love what
I'll just come out.
I know, Derrick. I think everybody knows you're atheist by now.
Yeah, you made it clear, brother.
Everybody knows.
I'm with you, Vanessa, in that I just, this, like the spiritual gifting and that kind of stuff, and spirituality was just so much part of my life that what I've said, and I've never really even flirted with atheism, but I realized the problems with anything spiritual you cannot empirically verify in the same way that you can things that are in the natural world, right? And so I understand the problems with that. So I don't try to sit here and
spiritual. You're not going to be able to. That's why it's called spiritual.
Right. So I've always maintained, and still
but anyway, yeah,
I've always maintained, and I still maintain that for me to be an atheist, I'd have to deny my previous experiences. Now that doesn't mean that I've made, or even current experiences. Wait. But that doesn't mean that I have figured it out.
Right.
So if that makes
listen, you and I have talked, Aaron, in great detail. You've seen miracles. I've seen miracles. You've seen healings. I've seen healings. You and I have both seen everything short of the raising of the dead, right? Mm-hmm. I don't deny those experiences. I don't, because they happen. What I do say is that there is no higher power that orchestrated any of it.
No, and we agree on that.
Yeah,
we agree on that.
This is something that you and I, we've been out in the mission fields, and we prayed over people, and we watched broken bones healed, and we watched blind eyes see, and deaf ears hear, and it's all an agreement between us and the party that's receiving the gift.
But see, here's where I take issue, and I've been thinking this through, so we haven't talked about this part behind the scenes yet. But I guess what I'm not willing to, what's hard for me to reconcile is the transcendent. That I do believe I've had transcendent experiences, and by that I mean something that's beyond what's right in front of me.
Yep.
And so
That's why I'm curious. Because
cling.
I haven't given
Derrick, you don't believe in spirituality at all, Derrick. Is that right? You don't believe a spiritual realm exists.
No, you know what?
You just believe in the material world, and that's it. Is that right?
Basically, it's like what's helped me to understand a lot of things is understanding quantum physics, right? Because when you exact something that causes a waveform, or you cause a particle manifestation, okay, then you're actually creating something that's happening in the unified field, and that's what I believe. I don't believe it's spiritual at all. I believe that it's actually physical. That
quantum physics is very spiritual.
Well, you know,
well, here's where I'm at.
Here's the thing. That quantum physics can be perceived as spiritual because it helps us to understand that which we don't understand. But when you get right down to it, is that what quantum physics does is it gives us a mathematical model and something repeatable that we can understand. See, when you get to spirituality takes away, it creates a randomness, and it creates a non-repeatability. And that's the problem that I have, is that when you get to things that are not explainable, not repeatable, not modelable, that is the problem. But the thing is,
life would be boring if you could explain everything every day, Derrick. That would be boring.
Okay.
I don't expect to explain everything. I don't. But
I feel like I had to raise my hand. Can I jump in?
You have to raise your hand.
I don't expect to explain everything, but what I do expect that there is a mathematical model or a precedent to which that I can apply what I don't understand to, and that's the whole thing. Because my thing is, if I cannot explain it materially or model it mathematically, then okay, then that means there's something else that there's some additional work that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
But everything is either, if it's not mathematically modelable, then you just have to chalk it up to chaos theory or chalk it up to chance.
Okay. So for me personally, I did take part. I mean, not take part, but I was the conduit, and I guess that would be the best way to explain it, for a healing that could not be explained by medicine or anything like that. It was definitely like an otherworldly experience.
Me too. I've seen a lot of that.
Okay. But for me, this was the one time this ever happened in my life. So I kind of hold like it tight. You know, it's not one of these things where I got used to it, so it wasn't a big deal. It was a big deal to me. It still is today. So that's why I can't just give up on like this idea that maybe there is something greater out there. My issue, and I've written this in my posts, is that it's not religious for me. I'm not trying to get other people to agree with me or believe in me or believe in what I'm saying. For me, it's an experience that I've had that I can't explain just by science or by naturalistic stuff. I mean, maybe to some degree, maybe we're looking at it wrong. Maybe what we consider natural and supernatural really aren't all that different.
No, they're
just
not.
Maybe something's been figured out and then other things haven't yet. Maybe,
but here's
the next 1,000 years, we'll have answers for every unexplained phenomenon.
Here's the thing, that if it can't, my thing is that if it can't be modeled mathematically, and it is not measurable, repeatable, and tangible, then it is just a freak of nature. It's a random occurrence, and that's the whole thing. We have to get to the point where there is rationality around all of this, and just saying, well, we just have to accept that some things are spirituality. That's giving a hall pass to a whole boatload of bullshit, and I just can't do that.
But that's only if you dogmatize it.
No,
You
I mean,
make it a religion.
No, I don't dogmatize it at all. I don't make it. That's the whole thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter individually what you think.
I'm not. Here's my thing: is that if I can't find a rational explanation for it, then I have to explain it. I mean, I have to basically say, okay, this is a freak of nature. This is this is an outlier. And I do consider the possibility for the outlier. I do consider the possibility of the things that I do understand. But my thing is that if I cannot make it simple, empirical, explainable, measurable, repeatable, then basically that falls into the category of bullshit to me.
Can I share some more Josiah wisdom with
so basically, you're saying my tarot cards are bullshit, right?
Here's the thing.
Do you really want Beth to come on tonight? Because I have something to say too.
There's some math. You can actually apply some statistics to tarot and make it make sense. So I don't have a problem with tarot. I don't.
Derrick.
Can I share some Josiah wisdom?
Say bullshit. That's all.
I want to hear some Josiah wisdom.
Yeah, let's hear
Josiah
some.
said God created one man and one woman, and he told him you could eat of any fruit of the tree but one. And he said the reason he didn't want him to eat them from the one was because he liked watching two people walk around naked. And as soon as they ate from that, they became self-conscious and they had to cover themselves.
Hey, listen.
God's a voyeur.
I say this all the time. That if there is a God, this God loves porn.
That's pretty
Okay.
accurate.
He absolutely loves porn.
That's not okay.
That's pretty accurate.
That's not okay.
Based on the narrative,
We'll talk later.
So would that make the serpent, or AK the devil, a purist? Or what are we talking about here?
Well,
Sorry. I hope that wasn't offensive.
I want to have Josiah.
Your face confuses me.
I want to make Josiah a guest of this show, because I think that would be just completely off the chain.
I'd love to hear Asa and Josiah have a conversation for an hour and just.
Oh God!
Let's bring them.
Obviously, we're not Puritans here where we're raising our kids. That's all I can say.
Hey, listen, let's bring them and let them say what they think.
You want to see Aaron's kid again, Josiah? His name is Josiah.
Just pop in real quick.
Oh. Well, I thought Jesus never lied.
No.
He said.
But he said what?
When they were eating together, he said that you will betray me.
Okay.
And when he said that,
You got a C in Bible. I'm just gonna let you know right now. Go ahead.
eh,
No, go ahead. No, go
So-
ahead. When he said
so-
that.
Hey, Josiah, come on the camera and say that.
Come on. You got shy. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you self-conscious. So he said
Prophet is accepted in this group.
How do you all handle parenting your children with your journeys?
okay, I thought Jesus never did a crime, but he let people's cattle go,
I'll let him finish.
Okay.
and he broke the law on the Sabbath because of something. He worked on the Sabbath.
Okay. Good job, bud. High five.
No, let me say this, Vanessa. I don't know if you saw the interview that my son did with Aaron, but it was really off the chain. And here's the thing: like, I've given my kids the latitude to find their own spiritual path. So I have five sons. Two of them are some form of Christian,
Okay.
right? 3 of them are some form of agnostic or atheist. And here's the thing. I really enjoy watching them find their own space.
Me too. Both of my kids are. My daughter is 23. My son is 26, and they're both borderline agnostic atheists. They're like, I don't know, like they just think we're all crazy. But just being able to watch, and then my 5-year-old grandson, just how I love how my son and his fiance are raising him, because there's no talk of God or spirituality in the house at all. And just watching my grandson just navigate on his own and be curious, I think that's so cool. So yeah, I was just curious how you all were raising your children going through this.
Real quick. I'm going to have my son Ducey reach out to you because he's a podcaster and he's very spiritually astute on his own. Yay. But I'm going to have him reach out to you and talk to you on a podcast. I think that would be absolutely fire.
Excellent.
But that's, my thing is I've been in the mindset that, even when I was a Christian pastor, even when I was a bishop or an apostle, my thing was I wanted my kids to find their own level. Mm-hmm. And decide where they want to be. I didn't want to be the one to determine their watermark.
Right.
Give them the space, give them the room to develop their own spiritual identity. Yeah. And that was my thing.
So Derrick, what do you do with how have you reconciled all the things that you witnessed as a pastor and as a Christian? I'm just curious to know, what did you do with all of your experiences? Because I know that was a journey for me trying to process through what to do with all of that. Have you just sort of said it just was freaks of nature, or just
no? Here's the thing that I believe that we have the ability, the creative ability to create our own reality.
Yeah, I do too.
And so when we begin to speak what that reality is, that is the reality that manifests. Now, let me give you a quick thing, because 7 years ago, my great niece Tanaya died of brain cancer. She was 10 years old. People prayed over her. People decreed healing over her. But she died. And you were talking, you mentioned earlier that you had this conversation with Jesus. Well, for me, it wasn't a conversation. For me, it was a fist shaking event. This was like, motherfucker, you need to tell me what the fuck it is that you have on your mind, what the fuck your plan is, because this is a 10-year-old child and she's suffering. You need to explain this shit to me. And I came up with what I thought was a good answer to that. But what I was doing was giving God a hall pass, because the reality is that if I were God, let me be God for 24 hours. The first thing I'm doing is I'm going into all the children's hospitals around the world, and I'm fixing the broken babies. That is job number one. Now, I have one son that's a type 1 diabetic. I have another son that suffered from a form of epilepsy until he was like in his teens. So I spent lots of time in children's hospitals. Now, for me, the issues that my sons were going through were a big deal. But in the big scheme of things, they were nothing. Because I saw parents who were praying over their babies that had no limbs, or praying for babies that were missing parts of their brain, or praying for babies that had cancer, or praying for babies that had other kinds of debilitating and otherwise fatal illnesses. And they prayed, and we watched children die. Now, if God is God and he created all of this, at the very least, he could fix the broken babies. If he can't fix the broken babies, then this God is a complete fuck up. And that was where that was a pivotal point in my faith journey, because it's like, if you try to say, well, God can't do, or God won't, or you create all of these different hall passes, you're writing hall passes for God to skate away from what is ostensibly his responsibility. If I were God for 24 hours, I would fix all the broken babies, because here's the thing. God knows the end from the beginning. That's what the Bible tells us. But God allowed a child to come into the world sick and suffer, and for the parents to be suffer or to suffer and to be made sick because of their suffering. That God is a complete fuck up, or he simply doesn't exist.
Yes. And for me, I mean, that's definitely the thing with the doctrine of election, total divine sovereignty, all that bullshit. I mean, it's all crap, just straight up and down.
No,
Because what kind of God is that?
That's getting esoteric. I'm keeping it.
I know, but I'm saying, I mean, they paint themselves into a corner with that stuff. They're looking for any excuse to like keep their God in check without saying they're keeping their God in check.
I'm not giving this fucking God any more hall passes. Either you show up and fix some shit in a major way, or I'm just of the mindset that you don't exist. And that's and so from now on, my thing is, I came to the conclusion that either God is a total, absolute narcissistic or he doesn't exist. And I prefer to say that he doesn't exist, because if he's a perfect narcissistic dick, then this is a God that why would I give any obeisance or any worship to this fucker? Fuck him.
Yeah. Well, you know, I go back to the question that she asked about how do we deal with our kids in this stage of life, I guess, like where we're at and how we're handling them.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, it actually kind of made me think about when I was a Christian and Asa, dealing with him, because Luca, like, I think when he was still a baby, he didn't really have any direct experience with Christianity, because that was about the time that I started deconstructing hardcore. And Beth too, like we were both completely out at that point, so we were already on another journey. So he doesn't really have any experience with that, but Asa, for his first few years. What's up, buddy?
So I can get this sword to get my whistle.
Yeah. But I mean, with him, I look back on it. I look back on the experience, and a lot of it was very hands off, because, like, I would let them teach him in church, and he'd watch like videos online or on DVDs or whatever about Christian stuff. But me myself personally was not getting into conversations with him, and I don't know if like maybe I felt like maybe subconsciously I already knew like I shouldn't be teaching my kids this myself. It was cowardly of me to just let it happen through somebody else. But at the time, I didn't know because I was still in that world. But there was something inside of me that was like, I shouldn't have these conversations about hell with my kid, or
like
he's a sinner and he's worth nothing. I don't want to set him up that way.
What I was doing is I was making sure that whatever it is that my kids were learning from someone else, that I was that I had some influence into that. Not saying that I have the absolute authority, but saying that I had some influence, because the thing is that here. Well, let me put it this way: that my kids for most of their lives knew me as their pastor. So I conducted their Sunday school and what they were learning and all that. It wasn't like it was anybody else. But the thing that I always said, not just to my kids, but to the other kids that were in under our ministerial care, is that this is something that's very personal and something you have to work out for yourself. This is something that I'm not going to tell you what I think you should interpret God as or how you should relate to God. But this is a very personal thing, and that is the way that I framed it. So here's the thing. Let me stop here because we're getting close. We're getting close to 2 hours, which is absolutely amazing, right? But I want to give Vanessa the absolute last word because she is my guest and she's got this some fucking margarita that I'm jealous that I can't have some of it. But Vanessa, please give us your closing thoughts.
Oh, I don't know. We've been all over the place. My closing thoughts. I don't know. Just it's your individual journey. It's your individual journey, and I think everybody will find their way. There's a part of me that's just okay with the curiosity of it all. Just I don't know. For me, I trust this intuitive part of myself, and I'm okay with a measure of faith. I'm still okay with a measure of faith because, again, that's because I've tapped into my ancestors' spiritual tradition. I think if I had not found that to sort of lean into, I would probably be very, very confused. So I just want to tell people, whatever you do, it's your individual journey, and I don't know that there's a right or wrong to it. It's just your own lived experience, and enjoy the ride. Deconstructing from Christianity is a hell of a ride, and just enjoy it.
Absolutely. Before we go, let's go through some of the comments here. Aaron, I know you're looking at some of these. Oh my God, I think Vanessa, I think this may be the single most the biggest volume of comments that we've ever had.
Yeah, it is.
That's because my mouth. I got so much mouth.
And listen, you're speaking truth, and I want to say before we take on any comments that I'm really grateful for you and your boldness and your bravery, your courage in dealing with these things, because it would be easy just to, God damn, I'm like scrolling. Okay, finally I'm up at the top.
I'm scrolling through. I'm trying to find some good ones here.
I was really looking forward to this trifecta for a while, so I'm glad it happened.
I know.
All three of you have such an effect on me, so thank you.
Hey Ben, your writings, dude. Talk about growing.
Ben's writings are off the Ben. I'm waiting for the book. Where is the book?
I'm serious.
I'm working on it.
I want to say this, Vanessa. I don't know if you know this or not, but Aaron and I are really trying to get Ben and Daryl Carlson together and doing something like what we're doing with Phreology Friday on another day of the week, because I don't know if you saw this, but they were guests during one of Aaron's vacation moments,
Mhm.
and these guys have such an incredible chemistry.
Oh,
We want to cultivate that. We want to expand that, and
As of right now, it's
Ben,
just a scheduled
You can literally
scheduling
just
conflict.
Ben can just take one of his posts and literally do a whole show out of it. Literally,
really, I mean,
Thank you.
his shit is amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
I had to go
Let
get
me
my
love you
dictionary.
Let me just say,
My dictionary whenever you post, Ben. I'm like, okay, let me get my dictionary. Hold on a second. Let me look that word up.
something I love about you guys and just the people I've connected with on Facebook, like even tonight, I think if nothing else, we modeled talking about all the hot button issues. I mean, I don't know, there weren't too many hot button issues we didn't hit on, but we did it respectfully. We disagreed or shared our thoughts, maybe that weren't completely identical, in a very respectful, friendly sort of way. And that is fucking missing in our culture today.
It
It
is.
is. It
And
really
I think
is.
that for me, I just got to say, man, I feel so blessed to, if I can say that word, I don't know. Is that going to trigger my?
It's council culture, and it's, I think a lot of us we're afraid to say stuff because we don't want to make enemies, but we're not going to solve the problems of our world if we
But we
can't sit down and talk. And talking doesn't mean we have to agree. We need to be able to hear each other, and if we're not going to hear each other, we're not going to ever solve these problems. So thank you both for letting me be my outspoken self and letting me say and be myself and not take things personally.
Have we become so narcissistic as a society, though, that if you don't think identically to me, if you're not a carbon copy of me and the way I think, then I can't be your friend?
I think so.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Let me say this.
At the end of the day, I think what's most important is everybody just thinks. That's all I want, and I know that the three of you feel the same way. That is one thing we're definitely all in agreement with, and that's why I respect the hell out of all three so much, is that you just want people to think. You're not trying to indoctrinate anybody.
That's right.
You want them to think for themselves. Whether they come to different conclusions, so be it. But
yep,
as long as they're thinking for themselves and not just regurgitating something somebody else said because they were afraid of hell or some other turmoil that might last forever. I don't know.
Here's the thing. Fuck doctrine. Is what is it that you know that impacts you, that you can apply to your day-to-day life that makes sense? That's the whole thing. If what you're hearing, Vanessa, you had mentioned this earlier, that you heard some things that just didn't make sense to you. And so you had to question this and say, okay, what is the actual answer to this? That's the whole problem, is that religion, and particularly Christianity, teaches us not to question.
That's right.
But when we get to the point where we say, okay, all right, this doesn't make sense to me. Here's my question. And I've said this over and over and over and over and over. I've said this on the show. I've said this on my public page, that if what you believe cannot withstand a simple Google search, it isn't worth believing.
I think we took Vanessa's last word away from her, so maybe we should kick it back to Vanessa. We were the last word. Like when I was a preacher, this is my third closing.
Yeah, this is right.
Well, she just keeps bringing up such great stuff, so it's hard to.
No, I'm done. I'm done. Thank you both for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, we had some really good comments here. It's like I just posted one. Karma Matata said was talking about Stockholm syndrome, and that's a subject that we've dealt with before.
I thought about that when Vanessa was talking about how she's coming to liberate people, and they think she's the enemy.
Yes.
Listen, let me tell you something, sis. You are not the enemy. You are actually you.
Let me
Hold
tell you
on.
something else.
Let me say something here
Cross
real
Vanessa
quick.
Brooks, man, she'll kick your ass on Facebook.
Let me say
Wait,
something.
what you say? Wait, what you say, Aaron?
I said, for anybody that comes across Vanessa Brooks, she'll kick your ass on Facebook.
Oh
So.
yeah, but you know what, Vanessa, you are a Messiah.
Compliment, Vanessa.
Let me say that again in case people didn't hear it. Vanessa, you are a Messiah.
Yeah, that's true. Can I lift my hands real quick like we in church?
Come on.
You know who else
because
pissed
I
off?
actually heard that. Can I just, y'all know I'm kind of spiritual in church, but no, I really did hear that about 3-4 months ago. And it was within myself. I'm not saying I heard all, but I heard it and it scared me because of all the religion. And I was like, you can't be saying that out loud, but I am, you are too. Many of us are. And that's okay. I think every generation will have them, will have messiahs. And
I'm not sure why it's not.
so thank you for just confirming something that I've been dealing with and processing through.
Well,
It's like, oh my God.
You listen, I want to say something is that you are a gift to humanity.
Oh, thank you, Derrick. Don't make me cry now. Y'all know I'm emotional.
No,
I'm a life path 9 in numerology, and we're very emotional. So please don't make me cry.
I'm going to say what needs to be said, and that you are taking people beyond what religion has taught them that they should be, and that is a gift. It is a gift.
Well, for all those people that are pissed off by Vanessa, remember that Jesus pissed off some religious people too. So,
Yeah.
there you go. Boom.
All right, gang. I'm gonna have to feed the family and say adios. So,
all right. Well, you know what? As always, you close out the service.
Everybody raise your hands and close your eyes. And I want you just to imagine right now peace and hair grease. You can actually
right.
Good night, y'all.
Hey, Vanessa, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
All right. Love you guys very much.
All right.